So, Dr. John Campbell was wanting people to give their opinion or responses or comments for this, so I guess I'm going to record some of it, although I don't know whether he'll bother listening to it or not, but I'll tag him in it anyway. I don't know how many people out of the 2 million subscribers bother to make a custom personal video for Campbell and tag him in the title as well. And if I had a channel with so many people, I'd never be able to go through and read all those comments. I don't think I'd want a channel that big. I was happy when my channel had like 5,000 people subscribed to it. And I wasn't even checking all the comments that often on there anyway, to be honest. Just putting stuff up because it was for evidence. But anyway, so Bill Gates. There's a lot to say about Gates, and there's a lot of things happened earlier on in this video about his comments and statements. The thing is, right, there's a few things to say that raise concerns in this issue. I don't think this is the answer that Campbell wants or the subject that he's expecting me to talk about, but with all this vaccine thing and the whole medicine thing, there's been quite a lot of videos with people kind of like questioning this whole method of these nanoparticles and lipids and so forth, and the delivery mechanisms and etc. etc. When Bill Gates is saying that they're going to have a vaccine for every disease, I mean, obviously you've got these big important diseases like, you know, HIV and things like that, malaria and all various other things. But, you know, really, I don't think that you want to be heading for a world where you have a vaccine for every disease. Because the thing is, you have to keep having vaccines and you have to keep taking doses and they keep affecting you. And this is like all of the other medicines that we've been on for the last, 50 years or even 50 years, right? You know, the sperm counts drop through the floor. There's gut bacteria is being killed off by even toothpaste, like, coarse or ill. And the thing is that, so, like, in nature, right, we build up natural immunity, which there's been a big thing on this natural immunity. So you don't actually really need any medicine, right? Now, I know that on those crocodiles, they're submerged in the swamp water and it's got all kinds of different bacteria and everything under the sun, basically, in there. And they've got this amazing natural antibacterial and healing, and doctors are wanting to study these reptiles because of these amazing properties. Well, they've clearly, I mean, you don't need to even study it. You don't need to study it or be an expert in it or even have a laboratory or a qualification or anything to know that the crocodile's body has evolved without the aid of science or without the aid of Bill Gates, without the aid of these laboratories, without the aid of the Hadron Collider or lipids or bat testing labs. Nature, God made this amazing, strong resilience because these creatures literally evolved and were essentially conceived, immersed in this bacteria. So they've actually come from it and are immune from it, right? So, really, that model is how we should be with the majority of diseases. So my opinion is that you shouldn't need any vaccines, particularly not man-made or designed ones. Now, the thing is that these people have claimed that they you know, they knew that we're doing the whole time, but they haven't, because of the sperm count drop, because of the gut bacteria getting killed off, and the, you know, obesity, cancers. They haven't known what they're doing, and the other the guest that was on Neil Oliver the other day, who's actually an expert consultant in the NHS, or he's like one of the highest consultants you can get, you know, within the industry. He said that, like, you know, once he's got to the top and gone in meetings and found out what's going on, and people just giving people pills for stuff, he's really disenchanted with the whole industry. And really, you know, all those pharmaceuticals and testing on us have actually really caused a lot of these problems, because, and he said they never teach them the history of medicine, because the history of medicine is filled with horrors. You know, like that, is it Freud or whatever he was called? One of the European, or was he English? He might have been. Not, it could have been Freud, but someone like that, you know, in the 1800s, who was, you know, basically, you know, cauterizing people's noses up and giving people cocaine, and all kinds of mad stuff, and, you know, leaving things up their nose and just treating them, you know, there's all that wallpaper epidemic with the you know, poisonous chemicals in the green wallpaper, and keep forgetting the name of it, and so forth. All that, just look, it's just filled with horrors, you know. And then you've got all the surgery for removing parts of people's bodies that really they could do without being removed. The history of medicine, it is kind of not really that much of an amazing success story, really. You know, so. And then when you think of, you know, the whole vitamin D thing that we've been told about recently through Campbell's channels, that, you know, if you're not obese and if you get in the sun, and, you know, you'd have a lot of better chances from COVID anyway, and so forth. So I think this whole Gates model is wrong. And the reason I know it's wrong is that, you know, I had these rabbits, and then the you know, they had myxomatosis, you know, a long time ago, that rabbits in the wild could get it. It's quite unpleasant. But then they gave this announcement out that, you know, there was this new disease, right? And the last rabbit I had didn't get the injection, and I found it dead. Now, I haven't seen any of my rabbits outside since then, even in the fields playing, and they used to skip around and play in the fields, right? I think my mum saw a deer the other day, but I've seen no rabbits, and they used to come out really early and play around. I can't see the fox getting them all. I think that disease that killed my last rabbit off, I think that's killed up all the other rabbits. And the thing is, if that's the case, there's either hardly going to be any rabbits left, or only the most resilient ones, or they're even going to go extinct, the wild ones, or you just can't have them in this country, right? Unless you have this vaccine, and you go to the vets and you hand the money over, and then your rabbit's protected. And then every generation of rabbits really will have to have the vaccine. But is that helping it? Gonna be immune? Well, no, not really, because those rabbits that survived, you know, the very few ones, if there's any left, and the fox doesn't get them, and the numbers are so low, they will be the ones who are resilient, right, to that disease, and that was usually through natural immunity. The other rabbits, every time you buy a rabbit or a pet, you're going to have to have the vaccine to make sure it's safe, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So it's a money-making thing, and you're dependent on the vets for protection of your rabbit, right, your pet. Now, unfortunately, I think that this is where they're going with this. I mean, everyone used to have to have the TB, the tetanus, or you're scared that if you don't have the tetanus and you cut yourself, you might get injured, right? I think the way they're going is that, you know, if they manage to get us scared of these diseases, and they can make, you know, we know they can conjure up these things now as well, you know, and there could be a spill or accident. It doesn't really matter whether it was intentional or accidental anymore. That's actually of no consequence. Or even if you find out who it is, it doesn't even matter if you find out who's responsible, because, you know, if it's done, it's done. You know, it's like an asteroid hitting, you know, boom. It doesn't really matter if it came from God or not. And the way they're going, we're going to be dependent on these things like food, and then they'll really have us. So I cannot advocate Gates on that at all. Now, there's something else I wanted to say about this, and that is that, wow, look at Gates's tummy. I mean, Gates is meant to be like quite a tall, slender guy. I mean, he does look quite lanky and tall on this, but look at his tummy, look at his gut. I mean, he's really put some weight on, and I thought Gates was like a health fanatic, a health freak, and he's the richest guy in the world, one of the most richest guys in the world, they're in these Rockefeller groups. So I can't understand why Gates, even at that age, with all his genius research, hasn't either figured out a way to keep himself thin or doing the exercise when, he's probably got, a tennis court, he's going to eat if he's that fanatical about medicine and health, you would have thought that he would have the most, prestige diet in the world. I mean, even Jeff Bezos, started out life as a geeky teenager, and then he turned into some kind of like X-Man or some kind of like super comic book hero looking guy, whether he's a villain or a hero, we don't know, Lex Luthor or Peter Parker or some kind of, he's lost his hair, but, he's buff, like along the lines of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Bezos is... at least not in his political position or his business position. Bezos definitely is not Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in his business and life view of the world. But as a guy, as a human male, when it comes to sport, fitness, and his general personal well-being, he's very much in the same category as, I would say, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., so it's ironic that Gates has stood there with this huge gut. So is not selling me his medicine, and it's not even selling me any lifestyle that he's got. I don't know what's happened to Gates. If he's saying that, this is just what happens to you when you get old and you start putting weight on. I mean, he's not, I can't imagine Gates as a coke fiend anymore or anything like that, He's definitely, you would have thought he would be clean, but whatever his labs are doing in the back rooms with the trillions of dollars he's got available, you would have thought that he would have been able to keep his tummy slim. And I'm not one to talk about that because I reversed my type 2 diabetes, so there was no trace of it. I got slim. I got onto an amazing diet for well over 2 years, and I was enjoying it, and I was keeping healthy, but other external forces and circumstances changed, and it's not about your will. Some people can't understand this. They won't be able to understand it, but I can't explain it, but they took away every single place that I like to go to. So every nice place that was especially nice, and that just made me not also angry. Basically, what else is there to save? If you're doing political campaign things and you need to save something, if it's gone, you can't save it. I mean, if, at least if people are ill, you can cure them. But, it's so... And I realised, if you got, a laboratory with mice and rats and you were doing experiments on them and training them, are they going to go here in the maze? Are they going to go there? Are they going to lose interest in going there? Studying them. If you blow that model up to a large scale and you've got a strategist who has done all these on a small scale in a room or on animals, I realised that, well, instead of, they can affect your brain, whether you get pleasure from things or whether you don't get pleasure from things. They can give people drugs, right, and see what happens. But the other thing is the actual thing. Usually, when you've got a drug, though, you still do something. There's something that you like doing, whether, it's going on roller coasters or whether it's, adrenaline sports. You see, when you do the adrenaline sport, you get the adrenaline thrill or buzz in your body, right? But you've got the thing is what you get it from. I mean, you can have Tom Cruise, who goes in a fighter plane. He gets the adrenaline, he gets the natural buzz, but obviously if there's no fighter plane, he can't fly around in it. Or if he can't get a beach buggy in the desert, like, in some of these other movies, with these action hero movies, Brad Pitt or whatever, if there are no dune buggies, you can't ride around in them. If there is no motorbike, you can't race around on a motorbike, right? If they take away, the theatre, you can't watch a movie. If they take away the countryside, you can't go for a walk in the countryside. So it's if they take away the actual place you're going to go, you can't go there. So all you're left with is, you can either be a heroin addict who's just actually literally taking the drug and getting it from the drug. It doesn't matter whether you're getting it from a needle or a drug or a pill or a tablet, or really whether you're getting it from doing a thing. Now, this is a thing with, doctors, governments, people like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. who have been drug addicts, to say, don't get involved in drugs. Actually get your reward, your pleasure from real experiences, doing things in real life, right? Well, if they take away those things and places, I mean, obviously they can't take away everywhere, but if everywhere's just all right, but then there's particular things you like to do or like to go, or what make things what it is, then there isn't anything you particularly like about a place. If there's nothing you particularly like about a place anymore, then you don't particularly like it. If you take away the sun from Bora Bora or, Ibiza, there's no point going there, because you go there for the sun and weather. You might as well go to Scotland, in a storm. If you take away the nightclubs from Ibiza and shut them down, right, you aren't going to get nightclubbers going there, right? Because there won't be any nightclubs, so you won't go to Ibiza for the nightclubs, because if they're all shut down, right? So it's like that. Now, the thing is that, this is where we're getting into, I think David Cameron's government and the Japanese government, well, it was it was Japan, China, the Far East. They put out that, all of the drugs that weren't illegal that people were getting online, and then the next thing, everyone was on it, and then it came out, and then Cameron was like, red card, referee, and then he banned it all, right? But he did it after everyone had got caned with it, right? So, and that's why a lot of people were. I think a lot of people had actually been caned by that, and it primed them to get even more caned by the pandemic, right? And then obviously there's food as well, making people go diabetic and so forth. So I think there's been these waves, like, strike, I call them strike 1 or wave 1, and then strike 2 and wave 2, and a different thing each time. But I think that it's all been planned and coordinated. I mean, I can't prove that, but it's just, I've worked it out now. It's a long-term strategy plan, right? And we've been getting caned by the food, but they really needed to speed the process up, right? Quicken it. So if you get everyone taking drugs, and they're all going to get their metabolisms going to be pummeled quicker. Now, the thing with Gates is he's not taking that into account, that, they're saying all these mysterious unexplained deaths, right? Which we can now talk about. Because, they're talking about it in Parliament and everything. So they don't know why it's happening, but they don't know what people were taking and how much it were taking and how it's affected and changed the metabolism from 2012 till, 2019, 2020, you see. then everyone's offset, right? So everyone will have had various different pummelings from all that as well, right? Which none of the doctors are categorising, classing, measuring or anything. They're kind of oblivious of it in a way, but it's a big metabolism effector. That's going to affect your diabetic condition, your cancerous condition and all the rest of these other things why people are mysteriously going out. So I think it was like a wave by wave or a phase by phase thing. I'm not saying David Cameron was sat at a table and he's giving the wink and the nod and planning it, but someone was, and Cameron, Blair, Clegg, all these, Blair's out there in between governments, getting them to change how they do things, so it's all in this new regime, so they're a lot easier to manage when it comes to, global world. It's all the Privy Council of people, basically. But we'll put Bezos in with that, and we'll put Gates in with that, because at least if they haven't taken the oath, they've put the money on the table. They've sworn in with the Charles. They've licked the pound note. They've licked the pound note. So they're in on it. So there's all that as well, which is why I think that also now this is the main. There is all this medical thing going on, but what I really think is that I think that at the moment they're testing the water with it, and I think that, Gates's wording and language in this video, he's wanting it to be put a patch on. He's wanting all this stuff to be able to put a patch on, which effectively means I want this to be absorbable by the skin, right? And then Gates said, or nasal, up the nose, basically, which means I want this to be inhaled, right? Now, this is the thing, right? Those two methods, a patch on the skin, which is absorption through the skin. So forget patch, right? Forget patch, right? This guy wants it to be absorbable through the skin and active, right? And secondly, forget nasal spray. This guy wants it to be able to be inhaled as a gas and absorbed and active, right? Now, once you've got that, you can just release it, and it's going to get absorbed through the skin when you touch something, or it's going to get absorbed up your nose. So they don't need to make you go to the doctor to get the patch or get the spray, right? Forget injection, because we know that Gates has probably sussed out this thing that injections are bad for people, and the damage, because people have been reporting that. Effectively, to cut the mustard, right, to cut the tosh out of Gates's speech, he wants, this is his goal, firstly, something to be easily absorbable by the skin, and secondly, or when you breathe. So that means that you just release it like COVID. So effectively, he wants to make vaccines, or we'll call them medicines, which can be as transmissive as effectively COVID or any other disease, but a vaccine, and it can, go into your body and do all sorts. So you've got to laugh at that. And once they can do that, then, right, this is the Lex Luthor genius mastermind of all time. You don't need to get you to go to the doctors or agree or disagree with the vaccine. Because this is when you get, even if you refuse to comply with their conditions, if you refuse to stay in your house or go out of your house, even if they've got surveillance on it, and, even if they had Robocop going around the neighbourhood or whatever, drones or whatever. Because if they did this World Health Organization thing when they could override everyone's rights and say, right, you're all going to have the vaccine, then they could just release it from a blimp or fly over the plane, and do a village. They wouldn't have to get you to agree. They wouldn't even have to get you to press a button on your phone saying consent, submit, accept. Kneel, whatever, lay on your prostate, lay on the floor prostate and become a bishop, for all they care, never mind, dib, dab, 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 you release the Kraken, they'll just release it anyway. If they get that World Health Organization thing, so you could say, oh, there's been a disease released, or an accident, or a spill of a virus, and now we'll have to release the vaccine, or drive, whether they want to drive trucks, send the Google car around your village, probably pumping out the vaccine out of its exhaust pipe at the back or something, or God knows what, right? So that effectively, that's what Gates is saying, and I'll stand by that statement. That is effectively to cut all the tosh out of Gates's, a patch or a nasal spray. Effectively, he wants it to be, basically, touch and breathable, right? And if they go with their World Health Organization and WEF thing, then we wouldn't have a say. And even if, they didn't override your political rights, so you had the right to go and petition or protest, what are you going to do? Protest in a radiation suit and say, I'm not having the vaccine, Then they'll be able to sell radiation, they'll make something out of radiation suits then, So, Gates, so far, is comedy. I mean, and also the state of his weight, for how much money he's got, and he's meant to have the most cutting-edge scientists and labs working for him. I don't have much confidence, either that or he's been doing a secret deal with Mr. Kipling. And that's one thing I noticed today when I went into the shop. I noticed on the Kipling's cakes, they've done the picture of the... there's like some cartoon characters and they've got the same smirk. And then if you look at that's Jaffa Cakes actually, but if you look at the Kiplings, the jammy, those Viennese things, I noticed that the angle they've put the photograph of the Viennese strawberry swirl thing, it's the smile, and it's also an annoying, mocking smile as well, the same one that Jeff Bezos has got for Amazon, and the same that I found on multiple other, like TUI and various other companies. And that I made a whole thing of this, all these businesses that are using this weird, smirky comedy smile. And that was that was getting towards some of the last videos that I were uploading when mysteriously my YouTube channel got taken down, my main one. Although I uploaded a video which was meant to be not allowed, but I didn't have any other strikes, right? And nothing happened until I appealed it. And then I was actually provoked into uploading it. It's a long story, but they provoked me into uploading it, kind of like sort of lured me into uploading it. That's another story, but really it should have only caused one strike, right? But they ended up taking my channel down, and then there was mysterious circumstances about the order of the emails and a few other things as well, and then strikes and things being triggered while my channel was down, which was impossible. Like events happening, but yet no events could happen because the channel was taken down. So very, very strict, like views or stuff like that. And then there's a whole political exemption thing anyway, and the fact that it's needed for evidence. But that, that's going into complaining against YouTube's policy, which is illegal, because it's illegal against the Public Meetings Act and various other multiple laws now. There are multiple laws that make YouTube's actions illegal, and it can't do what it wants. But anyway, so Gates, yeah. So he's, Gates is. Why does he want to own everything and everywhere and everything? The thing with this, I don't think that once they own everything, they're gonna say, okay, I bought it all, you'll own nothing and be happy. But what happens if you're not happy with? What happens if you're not happy with what he's doing? What happened? Can you oppose these guys when they own everything? Will you be even allowed to oppose them or have an opposition? Or, well, in nature, apparently it is good to have, all these Tories are talking about competitivism. What competitivism is there once these people have completely and totally subdued mankind? We've got to accept, submit and consent everything, and we're not even allowed to challenge them or question what they're doing. And if we raise our voice or lose our temper, we get a zap, and we've got to reply with the exact language they want us to use. Probably not typing anymore. Probably by the time Elon Musk's finished, only by mental Bluetooth, not even by moving your mouth. So basically, if you think in opposition to what they're doing, that's not competitivism. There's no competition at all. They've mastered everyone. And that's the problem at the moment. We need to compete with them because they're really, these trillions they've got and these tech things and so forth. It's wrong. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to mention as well. I'm just about to make a video for Big Brother Watch, to Big Brother Watch, because I made one video. They did this video about an undercover police officer, and he was talking about his tactics and the law, and there's quite a lot I disagreed with him on it, but there was also quite a few important things I had to say about the drugs, because he said that 95% of undercover police work is to do with drugs and drug dealing, and only the other 5% of it was to do with like political campaign groups and political action groups. So, and then he was talking about the law and changing legislation, and I had quite a lot to say about it, and then I recorded quite a lot of it, but then I still had to make another second video, but then I forgot what I had to say about it, and I never got around to making the second video. But some of that stuff about the drug stuff I was going to say, I'll mention a little bit of it briefly here, because I think Dr. Campbell, I don't even expect him to listen to this video, because I don't know if he's got time to listen to me for an hour, but there's so much to say about the drugs and the police and how the government decided to approach and tackle the existence of drugs and the control of substances, and how people buy and sell them and how they fit into society. Because the thing with drugs is, like ecstasy and so forth, cannabis and various other drugs. I'm not a fan of cannabis, I don't like it, but they all concern, not everyone's taken drugs. A lot of people have. Some people don't talk. Some people do talk about them. Some people don't talk about them. I never find people talking about them in the way and manner of which I'm, think they should be discussed and talked about at all. Drugs modulate, obviously, people's thoughts and feelings, and dramatically raise or lower people's characteristics in their personality and behaviour. 1 minute you can be exceptionally over friendly, possibly unnaturally friendly, more friendlier than is normal, abnormally friendly, or abnormally hostile or angry, or overexcitable, or even just no excitement at all, just completely, like emotionless, right? And then you can have, that's feelings, and then with thoughts, you can have a very overactive mind with too many ideas coming up at once, or no ideas, or be very scared and frightened, and go into fight or flight mode and feel that you've got to run away from something, or you can be very brave and challenge something and be overconfident, like they get people to do on game shows, not be afraid of the consequences or embarrassment, and so forth. Like, that's the flagship of TV, but they don't even use drugs for that. They just use crowd psychologies and hypnotism and so forth techniques, and then you've got all the fake stuff on top of it, making people believe that this is something that it isn't. You putting the false makeup on the television, making it more than it is, just for the extra excitement and so forth. All that. And to be honest, the police and the drugs thing, I guess I've mentioned this in this program. Sorry, in this in this talk, because I was going to do this for the second Big Brother Watch video that I needed to finish off. I think if the police are going undercover when it's concerning drugs, you see, you can get, once you have a certain knowledge about all the exact specific chemicals and their general effects and properties more than the average person, but also you know which ones they are, because obviously no one really knows what anything is, except the chemists and the laboratory, right? The police can switch people's drugs, so one minute they work and make them feel happy, and then, if they give them something that's different or odd, it can make them feel uncomfortable, scared, or out of place. And then if you've got undercover cops messing around with that and switching things, they can end up being played with and toyed with. People can get paranoid. I mean, that undercover cop in that Big Brother Watch video recently, I guess I'll put the link under here, he even said that, they realised that, he realised that, it's causing more harm than good to people's, relationships and society and dynamics. And then there's that aspect that, if you go to a chemist and if everything's over the counter and under government control and you buy it, at least you know that it's legitimate and it's a set price and this or that. You're not getting stung or deceived or robbed by illegal people who sell things and weird street cultures and all this and that. There's all that part as well, even though they're still ripping us off with products and sales anyway, with everything else. But the whole undercover police element to it, and the whole kind of tricking and deceiving and basically effectively being false. You have to put a false facade in front of you to go undercover and investigate and find out things. It's a dirty, it's like a foul in football. It's not like a fair game. It's very much like a football foul, or a rugby tackle, a dirty rugby tackle. And instead of educating people about these things very clearly and precisely and getting people to talk about them openly, instead they don't, and then they get messed around with financially, and then there's all the tax, crimes, getting people put in prison. So, I mean, that undercover police guy admitted, it's not a good thing. I think he lied about the law. Well, he either lied about the law or he doesn't really know the law properly. I think I said quite a bit about that in the other video, but I had a lot more to say about the legal side of it, because he was talking a lot of tosh when it comes to the legal side of it. Either he isn't that adept at the law, even as an undercover police officer, because remember, not all the police officers know the law, or they lie about the law, or they're trained badly or misguided, because you've got the whole, even with like advertisements, putting advertisements in public, banners, even when you've got political protections, even Max Hill, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and even the Attorney General, have got the law wrong, even with signs and banners, So when it comes down to, undercover police and what they can and can't do, and protections and immunities, they've always had the protections and immunities from the Attorney General and Chief Crown Prosecutor, at least from 1985 onwards. We don't need to get permission from the Attorney General or the Director of Public Prosecutions, because we're not the police like the paid police and trained police under sergeants and commanders, and then all the Crown Prosecution Service or the Attorney General, because we're independent. It's a little bit like the police and the CPS operate a little bit like a political party, effectively. They've got a party leader, right? And then you've got, the actual government. When you oppose the government, you oppose the ministers, you oppose Parliament, even oppose the Attorney General, or even oppose the police force, or oppose the Chief Crown Prosecutor, opposition. You don't get permission from your opponent. You don't. If you're investigating legitimately, honestly, criminals and all, corrupt and illegal practices of the government, through the corrupt and legal practices or corrupt police, you don't get permission. It would almost be like asking permission from the criminal if you could please be allowed to investigate them, or please would you be allowed to arrest them, or please would you be allowed to take evidence or something. You don't. The law gives you the rights and the immunities, no human being or person. So I don't really know what that. It probably did affect the police in certain circumstances, or made it a lot easier for them to do certain things. But generally, I don't really think it was that important of a point for him to go on to. So with the drug thing, it's important because there's a lot of social dynamics, relationships, and how things like cannabis and so forth, all these things have got good effects and bad effects. And they mix sometimes very, very subtle differences between the dynamics of relationships between friends, groups, family, or this is why people, there's a lot of knife crime and so forth as well. Also, you've got, financial factors as well, rich and poor, but that plays a part in it. And people just aren't openly talking about it and studying it nowhere near as much as they should do, or take it professionally and seriously. Instead, it gets put into an underworld, unofficial, illegal thing that the police just end up criminalising people over, and then they play games with people. That's the problem, really, with it. And why that's important is because I think those drugs have been having a lot of effects on people as well. Clearly, we evolved through different foods and different drugs. At the end of the day, a food is a drug and a drug is a food, but just like a drug is a very refined or very strong food, sometimes it can be man-made or modified. And that's why I think these we have to be extremely cautious about these new medicines and vaccines, because they are man-made and then they're very, very strong. And then the thing with Bill Gates is he's wanting something. If you make something so it's absorbable, right, through your skin, or breathe it, right, how can you control how strong a dose you get? People went for a COVID vaccine, but if you make something so you put it on in a patch, or even breathe it through your nose, right, in a spray, what happens if it did get let loose into the atmosphere, or, get onto surfaces? How can you control how much of it is absorbed and how much isn't? Then you're looking at serious trouble, because people could get overdosed on it quite easily if it got contaminated. And then it could potentially be as harmful as a virus or even COVID. So really, I think Gates is an absolute nutcase. No one on this earth could be not what anyone else regards as normal, with that kind of effect on your mind for that length of time, being that kind of person, with the amount of money and media attention he's got and the rest of it. I mean, even look now, look at the voting turnout. The norm for voting turnout is that you don't vote. When you look at the voting turnout, what's normal, right? What's normal is a majority. Whatever the most number of people do, that's normal, right? Well, most people don't vote now. It's normal to not vote, right? It's like 40% of people and under vote. So it's not normal. And then you've got these fanatics for Labour or Conservatives. So they're not normal. They're actually extremists, right? So, these people, they're definitely not normal. Now, what they'll say is, oh, we're superior, right? We're better. They'll say, the Tory and Labour will say, well, we're not normal, we're not the norm, but we're better. We're more passionate, more engaged, more bothered about things. Well, that's why you've got opposition and people with all these placards out who are, not very happy, right? Well, that's why they want to get rid of the opposition, So, this is the thing. My last point, I really severely doubt that Campbell's going to go with me on this up to 45 minutes, but I want to end it on this TED theme that we've got in front of us. So we've got this gate stood on this stage here, right, with the big TED letters, TED, right, and they've got all this, it makes it look like he's got all these guru, these worshippers, these minions, these, fanatics, these fans or whatever in the audience, who come to see the demagogue or the guru or the master, and the thing is that I've never watched this TED thing. I've never watched a full TED. I don't think that I've watched an entire TED. I've never liked it since it first started. I know that there's a lot of people being on there, people like Rodney Mullen, sports people, scientists, Gates, comedians, everyone, for the full spectrum of society, all the, these gurus go on there. I've never liked it. And I can remember, really, I think that, can you remember when they had that TED film, when he goes into the toilet and he's taking a pee, but there's that life-size, teddy bear or whatever. When that TED film came out, this thing definitely got some publicity and fame from around that time. If not, I don't think that I'd ever seen this TED talking thing until I'd seen that movie. I think that they must have come about at the same time, or one gave the other one some publicity or whatever. But I've got quite a lot to say about the TED or the teddy bear, right? And I've said this in other videos, but they're on the other channel. I think they got taken down. I've done quite a lot of talks that included this through the years, but I don't think maybe Dr. Campbell's not heard it. And this is quite an important thing. And this is to do with actually our ancestry and the whole pre-Roman conquest England and the whole, Arthur, R2 the bear, the stag, the whole using the animal. The Indians have the power animals, we had bears and stags and these. We still have these motifs. I mean, we've got the unicorn and the lion on the coat of arms, right? And then you've got the Warwickshire bear, holding on to the wood with the chains, We still have some of these animals and motifs, the Welsh dragon, right? The same, and the white horse at Uffington and so forth. The thing is, so the power animal or the animal, or you could even have a human, family, friends. When you've got friends or when you've got family, right? Humans, people, they make you happy. You don't actually have to take a drug. Like we said earlier, I said, you could either take a drug and get feelings from it, or you could actually go do the actual thing. You could go on the roller coaster, or, get in the aeroplane, or, go down the slide, or, go on the beach and, lay in the sun, or, float in the nice, cool swimming pool, or whatever it is, whatever gives you nice feelings or makes you happy or enjoyable, play tennis or whatever it is, right? Whether it is using a drug for it or whether it is like Robert F. Kennedy prefers going out into life and doing it for real, not in Mark Zuckerberg's pretend metaverse, mental procrastination, mental jerk-off world, actual real world. You get, pleasure from places or pleasure from people, or even animals. Now, the thing is, this is quite important, I think, to do with this TED program, and this is why I've actually. This is why I started recording this video and speaking. Campbell said, he'd be interested to hear what people say. So all the rest of the stuff that I put in, I just made up off the cuff as when I started talking. But I think it was relevant. But this is my main point of this. What I'm going to finish on, right? Because of TED. Really. And, look at Bill Gates there with his cuddly little tummy. He's all lanky and tall, but he's got a big cuddly TED tummy now, of all people. The pinnacle of human health, exemplary. TED. So, when you're a child, we get these teddy bears, right? These cuddly toys, whether it's Care Bears. You used to get the Care Bear with a symbol on its tummy. Or whether it's actual a bear, or doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, right, it's a stuffed toy, so it's not actually alive, right? It's a it's kind of like I guess that religious saying, we shall not worship false idols or whatever. But it's a mock, a model. A doll, a mannequin, it's pretend. It's not even a puppet. I mean, a puppet's got strings, someone's holding a puppet. But so you've got these teddy bears. Now, the thing is, they look cute, they look friendly, they look happy, right? But they just sit there and they don't move. Now, we can get onto the whole subject of ayahuasca and, psilocybin and Terence McKenna and visions and, all of the shaman stuff, and whether it's in temples or outside or whatever. That's another video. But there's something to do with paranormals and characters and mental projections, right? So the thing is, you project onto the teddy bear, right? And the child projects onto the teddy bear, and the teddy bear projects onto the child. Now, we get this with trees, tree huggers. You can, see a face in the tree, like on, Lord of the Rings, you get those tree men or whatever. We see faces in everything because that's the point of contact. It's a power. When you're born and you get your faces staring into the pram, the whole outside world becomes familiar, and then you identify with the communication point of other entities, which happen to be your parents, right? That's why we always you see faces in things, because it's just a natural communication point. And then we get these inanimate objects, which are shaped and made to look like real living entities that have got energy. Now, the thing is, the problem that I've realised is that the thing with the teddy bear is that if you're upset or you cry or you get smacked, although they've tried to stop that now, or you could have cried after your headmaster hit you with a ruler or whatever, if you're upset, basically, right, for whatever reason, whether it's another person or something happened, right? I mean, you could hurt yourself and fall over by yourself and cut your knee and be upset, right? These children, they've got these teddy bears, right? So they hug them. And notice it's an emotional outpouring. You're upset, right? And then you pour all this upset into the teddy bear, right? But the teddy bear is just like, it's not a real thing, but it absorbs all this upset. But it makes you happy because it looks cute and it looks friendly, and it's kind of there for you, but it's not really actually helping you or doing anything. It's just letting you absorb all your upset into it. But it can't actually, other than you releasing the upset and the releasing the pain, it can't actually really do anything else. So it can't sew your leg up, it can't put a plaster on you, it can't even give you any advice unless you're giving yourself advice and you're reflecting it off the teddy bear, like you project a consciousness into a, figure, and then you've got a figure in one hand and a figure in the other hand, and you're actually, playing with both toys and you're pretending to be each character. It's like a self-reflection from the imagination. So it's all you, right? Now, if you fall over and a woman comes past and she says, "Are you okay? You know, have you hurt your knee? You know, let's help you out." The other person radiates energy. They radiate care. You know, unless you know they're not very nice. You know, or whatever. But this is why you've got the feminine and the masculine. This is why women are naturally more caring and naturally more touchy-feely and huggy or supportive, but we seem to be losing that now. A lot more blocking and banning and not putting up with anything in these groups online, and all the estrogens messed up because of the plastics and the rest of it, right? It's a lot more standoffish now. This is why, you know, when Gaza and all these Poland and, you know, Ukraine, and this is why they see people hurt and upset, and they know, you know, they need to help them and somehow either give them money or somewhere to stay because of the, you know, that dynamic comes into it, right? You know, we aren't just a teddy bear. We aren't a Ted. You know, if we were a Ted, think of it like this: if we were a Ted, right? Ukraine could just come and cry on us, and we could just we wouldn't have to do anything. Right? We wouldn't need to send them money. We wouldn't need to give them hotels. We wouldn't need to do anything. We could just, you know, just be stuffed, you know, just not do anything and just let them, you know, cry and let all the pain come out and just not do it. That's like being a Ted. But notice that our government doesn't want us to be a Ted. It wants actually us to be humans, wants us to care, wants us to act, wants us to aid, assist, help, right? Now, a Ted can't do that, right? Because a Ted can't move, right? Now, the thing is, I realised that this is when I got a pet. This is why people like dogs. A lot of people like to walk their dogs. Because, you know, pets can be trained and they're more obedient and so forth, but they're also loving as well. And, you know, you have less arguments with, they're easier to get on with. You know, some women like to get on with a dog because he's less arguments than her husband or whatever, you know, or just because they're, you know, they've got a, you know, flap, waggy tail and sloppy tongue or whatever. You know, some people don't like dogs because they're smelly or whatever. But the thing what I learned with the rabbit is that it can give you a lot of happiness and care. And I realised that, you know, when I was upset or when I went to the rabbit and interacted with it, the love, the natural love from the animal, it's not a stuffed thing. It's actually a real thing. And actually the charge that it gave me, the happiness it gave me from its love and sentiment that it cared is absolutely immense, unmeasurable, and that's not from like taking a drug, and it's actually not from going to a specific place or anything, right? Now, they haven't banned pets yet. They haven't made pets illegal, right? So, you know, but it's not a stuffed toy. The sad thing about animals and pets is that, you know, sometimes people don't look after them or they don't care for them properly, but effectively, the why I don't like Ted then is because you get these gurus on there like Gates, right? And the audience isn't a Ted, though, are they? The audience aren't a Ted. They're not stuffed. They're not just, you know, there so Gates can, you know, shine off his ego and, you know, give out his, you know, advice to stuffed toys, you know. Even if they were like these clapping Duracell bunnies or, you know, Johnny Five is Alive robots clapping or whatever, you know, they're real people. So Gates is the whole idea of ego stroking. This is why I don't like I've never been a fan of television, really. I've never really been a fan of television, and now everyone's getting YouTube channels and they're all getting fans and followers and gurus and so forth. Slowly everyone's heads are slowly expanding. Well, not everyone's, but, you know, it's... So the thing with Ted, there's this dynamic in there, and I think that the BBC and the TV and the government, the powers that be, I think they've been studying and getting data on this for a long time. So the celebrity, the star, gets power from the people, right? Because they all worship them, so they're all clapping. They love them. Oh, we love you, we love you, you know. So that the charge they must get has got to be through the roof. It must be like, you know, tapping heroin into a vein or something, but without doing it. And that's not normal. It's abnormal. And then they fill up O2 arenas and so forth. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, we shouldn't have live musicians and we ought to ban it. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, it isn't normal interactions. You know, if you can be so happy from a dog or a rabbit, or even from actual humans, from friends, why do you need that? You know? And shouldn't everyone understand each other and give everyone advice? So this TED dynamic, you know, what is Gates giving these people, right? Well, Gates is giving them knowledge or telling them what to do, right? Is he their TED? Is he their teddy bear? Well, he's got the tummy for it, but I don't see, you know, they're not all jumping up on the stage and trying to touch him, that's for sure, you know. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he gets a lot of fans going around to see him. You know, he needs to get them to vote for him. But, you know, he's got security. He has to be sceptical, you know, what they're going to do, because you get some crazy fans or whatever. So, you know, this TED, you know, Gates isn't really their TED, because if he were, they could all have a Bill Gates and take him home with them and give him a hug. But Gates can't be everyone's TED. It's impossible. And if Gates can't be everyone's TED, that's as close as you can get to Gates, by the way. You can take on his advice, talking TED. Everyone can't, you know. Gates, there's only 60 minutes, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, and 7 days in a week. So everyone can't get a hug from Gates. He can't be everyone's TED, right? You might be able to afford to give everyone, you know, $1, you know, if that'll do you, but he can't be everyone's TED. But we can all be his real life charge, you know. I think this is to do with television, but the problem is with the TV and the stars is that if you do something wrong or bad, then all the people don't like you, or it's negative. And there's something you definitely don't want to happen, is that if you've got all these millions of people on the positive, you really don't want them going to the negative side, because then you, instead of, you know, being charged on the positive by immeasurable numbers, it goes into the negative by immeasurable numbers. And that's definitely not going to keep you happy. This is why a lot of people aren't that keen on the whole thing, and why they're just keeping the comments or, you know, whatever. Like the voting turnout. Look at the voting turnout, what I said, you know. It's not normal to vote. It's not even normal to vote these days. It's abnormal. It's not the norm to vote. It's more normal to not vote, right? And I definitely think it's more normal to not be one of these TEDs. But why they're selling it as TED, right? Still selling it as this TED thing, you know. It's starting to get to the point where the whole kind of oligarchs, Musk, Gates, you know, Bezos, it's too much. And whether it's too much money or just too much power, too much control, and, you know, I actually think that it is a distraction, definitely a distraction from, so they've got all the medicine thing happening, which we talked about. Then they've got all this weird new thing happening with trying to get, maybe you could even cause political issues to get more people, because to get more and more people to, like I'm having to speak out now, to get more people to do it, you need a problem, right? Otherwise, people would just be, on with their normal life. If you have a big major problem, everyone wants to talk about it, everyone wants to say something, everyone wants to type and respond and engage, and then you can start measuring and assessing people more and classifying them and categorizing them, particularly when you've got AI and so forth, and sorting them, filtering them and getting information on them and getting digital identities on them all. If there wasn't a serious problem, they would just be going about their own business, and you wouldn't be like shaking up a jar of bees. It would be just like people just generally going around nice and steady and leisurely. You could still probably collect data on them, but you really wouldn't be squeezing data out of them, that's for sure, or testing the boundaries or whatever. So something's going on, and it's definitely YouTube. This whole YouTube thing, it's a tube to you, right? And it ends up being about you, though, because a lot of these channels now, yes, I think that people are genuinely trying to reach out and speak to people and be normal, but you can't get that with everyone. It's not. I don't think it's going to work. And they're definitely wanting to coax us or provoke us to get onto this media and start saying things that we think really kind of shake the jar to get us on there, I think. And then once you start getting annoyed about certain political things happening, then they can say, oh, you can't say that, you can't do that, and you can't do that. And then they can start putting these parameters and control on it. I think the media thing has definitely got something to do with what they're doing, as well as the medical thing. But then there is the tech thing, and this is why I think Bill Gates, and I know that I said I'd finish on the TED point, but this kind of figures into it, really. I think that they wanted to get us on the tech and get us all engaged as much as possible. And then there's all this kind of distraction now from this whole medical thing. What they're doing with this tech is the main thing we should be talking about. The main thing we should be talking about is, what are these devices doing, what software are they using, and how are they using it on us while all this is going on in between. You got Tony Blair out and about in the big wide world, like the cement between the bricks, going in between governments, sitting around, right? Setting up all these other governments, all aligned with their regimes put in place. While we're all doing all these political actions and activities, while all that's going on and everyone's engaging and doing YouTubes and Facebook groups and so forth, and there's all this medical stuff going on and we're all reacting, what are they doing in between? In between the cement in between the bricks. And what I found they're doing is they're using some very, very, very concerning software, advertisements, all these algorithms, so to say, psychological games, psychological spying and finding out information about people, using particular images, getting information from your emails and then using that information almost immediately on Facebook, images and so forth. The thing is, also, when something happens and it's significant, you want to know how it's happened or who made it happen. Now, when all this tech's doing it, it's becoming normal for coincidence to happen, or for synchronicities, or for things that someone else has said and done happening. And if you can't tell the difference between who did it, either eventually you don't really know, or you're not bothered. And if you stop being bothered about who did something or why or when, then you don't really know who's doing what or why or when. And then you don't really know really what's happening, because you or you might not care about what's happening. And there's something going on with this tech at the moment. Remember, Bill Gates is the guy. I know we've got Zuckerberg, I know we've got Musk, right? And Bezos and etc. Sorry. Gates is the tech guy, right? He is the, Windows, although, there's meant to be military history behind it as well. But Gates is the tech guy. Gates is the computer guy, Microsoft, right? He's, Minesweeper, right? Don't you think it's odd that Gates is suddenly highly prolific everywhere, but for medicine and vaccines? Oh, medicines and vaccines. Notice that he's right there on the stage in TED, the computer guy, the software guy, the tech guy. But no one's thinking about tech. They've got everyone thinking about viruses and medical things, right? But while we're distracted with that, what's actually happening is all the tech stuff, all the software, all the gadgets, all the AI, all the advert priming, timing, taking data off you, getting files on people, government bringing cars that have got, quarantines on them or restrictive movement now on cars, gate data software, all these surveillance, facial recognition, the rest of it, right? So Gates, they couldn't be a bigger scapegoat for this, because he's up there going, oh, there's a medical problem, this is what I'm all about. But just a minute, aren't you the computer software tech guy? And the world's been taken over by all this stuff that no governments are making policies on this tech. We're not even talking about it on GB News or anywhere. Oh, maybe we shouldn't have these adverts on his phones. Maybe we shouldn't, have phones taking his data down. Maybe it shouldn't have his medical data. Maybe they shouldn't, be having your medical app. Maybe, Google shouldn't be listening to you when you're in the doctor's clinic. All this stuff. But that is completely and totally sidetracked or put on the sideshow because of all this medical stuff that's happening, right? Yet Gates is the tech guy. It's almost like, I'm not a tech guy anymore. There's not a tech problem. We're not doing anything with the tech, and there's no tech takeover. Well, we've got a medical problem, RFK Jr. has talked a little bit about the tech side of it. He said that, I'm not too keen on this. I spoke to my wife, and then, they've got dentistry adverts popping up when, it's a bit weird. He has spoke about it, so it's not like, you don't want anyone speaking about it. But I think that the whole medical thing, I do think it has a purpose, and I do think they're going somewhere with it. But it's kind of like the big taking up this. It's really kind of like grabbing people's attention, and they're actually using the response from that and all the rest to drive us like cattle into the social media and to come out to make videos, to go on groups, to type and say things, right? It's almost like squeezing the toothpaste out of the tube, right? So they can get the tech data, okay? So that's why I think Gates really is the scapegoat at the moment, when he really actually is the tech guy. He's a tech guy. He's still a tech guy, even though you've got, Zuckerberg and Musk and Bezos. Bill Gates is a tech guy. Although we've, likely got other tech guys who weren't that interested in becoming billionaires and famous, who are, like Scottish people who sound like Neil Oliver and appear on George Galloway and did some programming into Facebook and Google now and again. We've got other people. So, I still think Zuckerberg is more of an entrepreneur and just literally made millions out of advertising. but he's in on it. He sold out on the cash. He made cash quicker than Gates. I think Zuckerberg's made his fortune a lot quicker than Bill Gates did. It took Gates a long, long time. He did it all, building Microsoft up, getting people into computers, mainly through offices and businesses. In a way, Zuckerberg really is a premature kind of, squirt, really, compared to Gates. He's just come at the last minute, but he's definitely in on it. If we all become celebrities, I think they've had the celebrities under a certain amount of control for a long time, because obviously they're more controllable, than other people who are just not unknown. So they're trying to get us to kind of all be comfortable with being celebrities and therefore being filmed. And then, in a way, the whole model for the acts of law, they want it to be directable. They want it all to be directed and scripted, and everything run like a movie, a soap opera, which is like The Truman Show, and I don't think that is a fair model. It's not freedom and it's not liberty at all. And the clamping down on the behaviours and so forth, it's they definitely Cameron, Johnson, they claim competition, good old Oxford competition, Oxford and Cambridge competition. They don't like competition. Because, there's competition when we can say what the hell we want. There's competition when we can shout. There's competition when we can, write what we want and publish what we want. There's no competition or contest when there isn't, we're beaten, we're defeated. And that's what Cameron did when he sold off all the public services and all the things, there is no contest. They want to beat us and win. Life didn't diversify and evolve with no competition. I'm not a person who seriously advocates, warfare and battle and contest and conflict, but, they want to subdue and beat everyone. And, then it could just be a walk in the park and they can get on with their, whatever vision they've got of the world. Who are they to design mankind's destiny? Who are they to design the destiny of mankind? And that's probably my finishing point. Maybe I didn't say anything substantial or not, but this TED thing provoked me into talking about that TED issue and the whole kind of that's why I don't think they're gonna, a lot of these TV stars really, Schofield, Vine, they're on this, it's perfectly normal. No, it's not, Jeremy. You're trying to make it more normal so people will accept it and put up with it. It's not normal to vote, Jeremy, even though you're bouncing up and down, and daddy long legs on TV with the graph poll charts illuminated behind him like a weather presenter. Bouncy, bouncy Vine, the Labour and Tory results are coming in. Yes, Jeremy, but, only 40% of people voted. It's not normal. It's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal. No, it's not the norm, though, is it? It's not the status quo. It's not the standard. It's not the standard. The national standard now is to not vote, so it's not normal. It's perfectly normal. No, it's not. It's people are having to go on the TV, and now they can talk back to the radio. They've got two-way radio now. It's not just Vine, winding people up and smashing their fists on the steering wheel, because now you've got CCTV in the cars, and then the police will be pulling them over if they're smashing their hands on the steering wheel or screaming and shouting, pressing their horns down in tooting or whatever. It's two-way. Now we can complain back, but we're being provoked by these diseases, by these new laws, by the tech. the tech's a major key in it over the behaviour to get a grip on it, and then I think all of the viruses and disease dependence. There's definitely going to be some dependence with this new medical system. I think they're going to get us dependent on it, so we kind of need it. And you can't. It's like digital ID, but you can't even vote without digital ID. You won't be able to leave the country without passport or digital ID. You might not even be able to leave your town. These 15-minute cities. Even worse than that is, I mean, if you don't have the vaccine, you might die. You won't be safe. You can't live. It's like it really is starting to turn into, it's like Total Recall, that Total Recall film in a way. Don't really like to use movie examples anymore. Kind of giving up with films. A lot of these people who made those movies had a lot of insights and vision, way before the time. But, it doesn't seem like the movie people really ended up helping us or anything. And we all end up sitting in the cinema, soaking the movie in. These roles and icons play out in the psyche, but they don't actually really want you to do that. It's like, I've said this in another video as well. It's like they're getting you to sit there so your mind can kind of go through really what really we should be doing or need to do to stop a lot of this. In a way, that's really what will happen in the metaverse. It's a procrastination. It's a mental jerk off. Really, it's not really real in the real world. And I think that without the movies, then people really would be wanting to do something about the thing that's going on. But I think that it's almost like having a dream. Like in a dream, like it release, they say that, I dreamt I fell out of bed, or I dreamt that I was falling from a plane, or I dreamt that, this happened or that happened. The dreams are kind of like meant to be kind of like going over certain things or problems or releasing them, and I could go. You can go into a lot more detail than this, but I'm trying to summarize it. There's something about the movie that I've realised now with those hero characters when they, one guy takes on the whole. There'll be none of that now because I really don't think they like Star Wars because the word Star Wars signifies that there's going to be a war, right? And when you can just have these speed bikes, that they can just hop on, Luke Skywalker, there's a couple of, stormtroopers there or whatever, and then, choo-choo, shoots them off the bike, jumps on the bike, starts the bike up, and then zooms off. You see, the model for Star Wars is that you could just get into a spaceship, push a couple of buttons, and it starts, or jump on a speed bike, and then, it's off, or whatever. I know they had to kind of like hack in the door with R2-D2, but I think the Star Trek Next Generation model is a very, very, very different world. It's like, you definitely sit on the bike. It's not going to start unless you've got the exact fingerprint for it or the exact eyeball scan. You're not going to defeat the Empire by, jumping, on the into the car and pushing 3 buttons and then saving the day, because it won't do anything because you won't be authorized to. So, the future they've got is very, very different to Star Wars, because the type of things they're making now are not going to work. They're not going to respond. I mean, I can't even work my mum and dad's. If you're not an Apple person, if you're Android, I don't even know how to work my mum and dad's computers. I don't even know how to pay the bills for the house. I don't know how to do that. It's all keyed in, password, locked out to other people. I mean, if I want to PayPal something now, I can't do it without having my phone on me. I've got to do it on the computer, then authorize something on the phone, then it comes back again. And then if I want to log in, incognito on YouTube, he's got to send me a thing to my phone. Was that you getting on there? It's a very, very claustrophobic, restrictive, authoritarian model they're making. And if they've required it because of, immigration has got something to play in it, because, there's a lot of the immigrants have different views on what the law should be, what the culture should be, how to conduct and behave. Even if they're going to gradually, get people up to speed, us ourselves, we aren't having any authority to do anything. I mean, I can't go online and buy things now. If you don't behave exactly how the seller wants you to behave, it's not like, shoemaker, make me some shoes, or how do you want them? No, it's like, we're doing this and you can have what we're giving you. You don't request anything anymore. These people who have bought up all of the major companies, right? They are designing. You will have these shoes. It's like on 007, when he goes around to Q, well, you'll have to give me that Beretta, you're not having that anymore, and give me the case back, and, you're having this, and then, give me the watch back, this is your new watch, and, this is, you can't have that anymore. We used to think it was cool on the 007 film, but it's not. It's like, right, give us all your phones back, now give us all your vehicles, you're having these new issue ones. It's like, we're telling you, you don't go to a shoe shop now and say, cobble me some shoes, or tailor me a jacket, or paint me a picture. It's like, you're having this picture, and by the way, this is your new phone, and then, okay, you can change the size of the font, but it's not going to tell you the date on there in big, and we're going to make sure the buttons, you've got to do this little thumb swirl now. If you want it to work, you've got to do our thumb swirl, the new salute, Zik, Heil, Oppo, well, you can't watch a video unless you, twiddle your left thumb 8 times and then, shake your right toe. Do the ritual, If you want to, exit a video quick, you've got to obey, obey Mac. You've got to, put your thumb in a, pattern, or you got to say your voice, exit app, please. Exit app, please, sir. Now, oh, I'm sorry. Exit app, please, sir. Now you may exit the app, No, now take the oath, Do you consent to submit to accept to the new regime of the ruler of the Musk, of the smirky smile, Give me the smirky smile. Don't you think that's funny? Now shake a tail feather for Jeff. Do the truffle shuffles for Jeff, Do the truffle shuffles for Jeff with the Mr. Kipling's, with the smiley, smirky Mr. Kipling's box, and go on a tooey holiday for 2. Smirky, smiley. It's kind of funny. There's something ironic about this. It's it's literally like the Blues Brothers, isn't it? Twisting, shake it, baby, do. This is it. Beg for your food. This is where it's going. Actually, Sunak was on the other day. I don't watch Sunak, but he was on one of the programs, had him on. It might have been Russell Brand or someone, probably not Brand, might have been Galloway. But, Sunak, someone asked him this question, and he came back with this answer. And I realised that it meant nothing. It meant nothing. It explained nothing. It actually was meaningless. Sunak comes back with this, 2-sentence reply. And I realised when I actually put the words out in order, it means nothing. And I tried to, what's the clever meaning? What's the, the second meaning? What's the innuendo? There was none. It was absolutely meaningless. It explained nothing. It was like a sandwich filler. It's like now you go to the shop and then, you can get this or that. And then they've got these, fillers, sandwich filler, tuna and sweet corn filler. It's just mayonnaise, if in a plastic jar. There's no tuna in there. A couple of specks of sweet corn. It's not actually. It's just to fill you up. Going to get an extra fried rice just to fill you up. It's just a filler sentence. It's got no nutrition in it. It's got no meaning in it. It's got no value in it. And I think Sunak doesn't need to. and I think this is where I am with the Prime Minister now. He doesn't need to answer to us. He doesn't need to explain himself. A factory owner doesn't need to answer to his workers. He doesn't need to explain himself, or he doesn't need to give a reason why he's making widgets. You want a job? Come and make widgets. If you don't, then, go home, clock out. It's my widget factory. I make widgets. I don't have to explain to you the morals of why we should be making these widgets, or, how many widgets we should be making. You're my workers, you're my staff. And that's now, I think, how the government are treating us. They don't have to explain anything. They don't have to tell us anything or reason. So they just give these filler replies, which are completely, utterly meaningless. There's no meaning in there. There's no explanation. There's nothing. It's just a filler sentence. And then you think, well, how does he do his business deals? Well, if it's a big business deal and if it's over $1 million, a multi-million deal, then, he might have to, give some information over to them and explain why he wants the money and what the benefits are going to be. But even then, I think the whole business sector is, cleverly omitting information, cleverly leaving certain facts out. Oh, better not mention that, I'll tell them that, like they're doing in the courts, which is the other issue I've got now with the Crown Prosecution Service and the justices and the councils and government. What I found they're doing is they're bringing legal cases and leaving critically required information out so they can get it put through and the judge to make an order, and then on paper they didn't do anything wrong because they actually didn't really tell you what it really was. It's like it's missing critical facts and truth, but it doesn't look like they did anything wrong because, they didn't know who these people were in this case. They weren't Insulate Britain protesters using political rights. No, unknown people. There is no rights claim here. Well, why did you want to get an injunction against them? Why didn't you just prosecute them like anyone else? Or the 5 boroughs, challenging ULEZ, challenging Sadiq Khan on ULEZ, right? So, we've got 3 legal points. 5 Conservative councils pretend that they're going to try and stop Sadiq Khan spreading ULEZ, right? So, 2 of the, and there's actually, there isn't a law saying that they can't even do ULEZ, by the way. So what they do is, so what they do is rather than say, there's a law that says that everything you've done so far is illegal, possibly even the congestion charge. No, instead they go, actually, we kind of agree that everything you've done up to this point so far is acceptable and okay, but we're going to raise this point that really there might be a reason why we might not be able to do it any further than that, and then there's another 2 tosh points that mean nothing and are pointless, but we actually really aren't challenging the whole ULEZ thing at all in any way whatsoever. But, let the newspapers tell everyone that we did challenge it and we tried to stop it, but we didn't. We didn't even really try to stop it at all. In fact, we helped to prove that there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly okay up to this point. We just don't want to go any further, And by the way, the guy who's judging it, this is a petition, by the way. It's going on my petition channel. The guy who's judging it, he worked for the government in finance. He was a lawyer for so long. It might have even helped consolidate and build up some of these fines and fine systems. And surely that can't affect his decision-making in judging this case, because he wouldn't want to pull all his work to pieces, would he, that he did, under the Tony Blair Gordon Brown government, but he did a little bit of help. Remember that help that he gave to people to help the taxpayer get money back? Let's not forget that. Yes, but Gordon Brown sold all the gold off, and then some other people made, millions, billions out of it. This is it. Like the test case. So it's just a test case. Yes, well, we'll just test our own corruption and see how strongly it's going on. Hey, look, guess what? It's a test case. Oh, look, here we go. 5 Tory councils. Come on and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Yes, well, just test out the last 10 years of corruption. See how we're filling that concrete in, since the 2002 Tony Blair government, Come on then, go and give it a bit of a, go on then, let it go on. Like 5 councils. Come on, give it a smack with the hammer. Like Gail Bradbrook. Give it a smack with the chisel. Come on. Swift. I'm Swift. I'm Judge Swift. I built this congestion. I built this congestion charge and these illegal fines. I worked on this government finance. Come and have a go and try and knock it down. I'll be the judge of that. Whether it's I'll judge how strong my work's doing. See if we can have these 5 councils have a go at it. Well, we're actually not really having a go at it, Sam. Actually, we just don't want you to go any further with it. Oh well, so you're trying to block me then, are you? You're not really trying to knock my hard work down, are you? No. This is it. With their test cases, search the entire document for these words, see if it contains any real challenging words in there, like, void, illegal, impossible, or criminal, or even institutionally corrupt. This is it. So what's been going on in the courts is Joko, just a minute. You don't happen to know a solicitor, do you? Well, I am a solicitor on a Tuesday at 3:00, but you're the judge. Well, I'll be the judge of that. Just it says here, I've found a scrap of paper. It says, justice shall continue in the business. Any justice shall be incapable of continuing in the business of government finance. No justice shall be capable of continuing in the business of government finance when they're seeing a case of government finance that they helped to build in the first place. And now he's got, thank you very much, sir. We'll give you a nice cushy job on the Electoral Commission. No, sorry, on the Boundary Commission. And you can help plan the new boundaries, to help these political parties win in other diverse and arbitrary ways. You can help them in their elections with their diverse and arbitrary border changing or whatever, This is it. So that's where I am with it. I get gone quite away from Bill Gates, I suppose, but he is turning into a Ted, just not a very cute and cuddly one, unfortunately. And he's got far too much positive feedback, although he did, help everyone out with their Windows computers that worked pretty quickly for the first week or so until then it slowed down. And now, 20 years later, my computer is state of the art, and it probably isn't as fast as a brand new Windows 98 computer, at least for the first week, This is it.